The Last Stand. The stars were dying, one by one. Admiral Genra watched from the bridge of the Galactic Alliance flagship, Eternal Dawn, as another of her vessels erupted into a silent blaze of light and debris. The Vorax weapons cut through Alliance shields like they weren't even there. 17 years of war against the insectoid collective was about to end, not with victory, but extinction. "Status report," she demanded, her forearms gripping the command console as another impact rocked the massive vessel. "Hull integrity at 43%. "Admiral," her first officer responded, the bioluminescent patterns on his skin flashing with stress. "Defensive grid failing on decks 7 through 12. The colony on Taraxis IV reports the orbital defenses have collapsed." Genra's facial tentacles curled in despair. Taraxis IV was home to over 3 billion Alliance citizens. Without orbital defenses, the Vorax would begin their systematic destruction of all surface life, their standard procedure for any world they conquered. "Signal the evacuation fleet. Priority to children and genetic repositories," she ordered. It wouldn't be enough. Nothing was ever enough against the Vorax. The Alliance had once been the greatest power in the known galaxy, uniting over 200 species across 1,000 worlds. But the emergence of the Vorax collective from the uncharted regions 17 years ago had changed everything. The Vorax, a hive-minded insectoid species with biotechnology that evolved faster than Alliance scientists could analyze it, consumed everything in their path. Their only goal appeared to be the eradication of all other sentient life. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission on an unknown frequency. It's not Alliance, and definitely not Vorax." Genra raised an eyebrow ridge. "Source: unknown, ma'am. It's coming from outside the Taraxis system." "Put it through." The main view screen flickered to show a being unlike any Genra had encountered in her centuries of service. It had only 2 arms, no visible exoskeleton, and was covered in some kind of artificial protection. Its face featured forward-facing eyes and a small protrusion in the center. It was speaking, and the Alliance translation matrix struggled to process the unfamiliar language. "Captain Ilaraway of the Earth Fleet Ship Defiant. We've detected your distress signal and are moving to assist. Please transmit tactical data on the hostiles." Earth. The word meant nothing to Genra. Some unknown species from an uncharted region, perhaps. But what difference could one ship make against the Vorax Armada? "This is Admiral Genra of the Galactic Alliance. Unknown vessel, I appreciate your offer, but I strongly advise you to retreat. The Vorax Collective has deployed 37 capital ships to this system. They will show no mercy." The alien, this human, made an expression that the Alliance cultural database couldn't interpret. "With respect, Admiral, we've been studying the Vorax for some time. The Defiant was built specifically to counter their capabilities. Transmit your fleet position so we can coordinate. Why out?" The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Genra puzzled. Who were these humans? And what made them believe they could challenge the Vorax where the combined might of the Alliance had failed? "Admiral," her tactical officer shouted. "New contact approaching at incredible speed. Configuration unknown." The view screen shifted to show a vessel unlike any in the Alliance fleet, where Alliance ships favored elegant organic curves that mimicked natural forms. This newcomer was angular and utilitarian. A massive rectangular hull bristling with what could only be weapon systems, its surface scarred in places suggesting previous combat. It radiated power in a way that made the sensors struggle to classify it. "That's the biggest non-Vorax ship I've ever seen," whispered her first officer. The vessel, this Defiant, accelerated toward the Vorax fleet, moving with a speed that seemed impossible for something of its size. Before Genra could process what was happening, space itself seemed to ripple around the unknown ship. And then the Vorax vessels began to die. Captain Ilaraway stood on the bridge of the EFSS Defiant, Earth's first and only interstellar battleship. At 38, With short black hair streaked with premature gray and eyes that had seen too much war, she had spent her entire career fighting for humanity's survival against threats from within and without. Now she faced an alien enemy in a distant star system, fighting alongside aliens she had never met before. "All stations, combat status," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension. "Weapons control, designate primary targets. Shield systems at maximum." Her crew minus 327 men and women representing Earth's finest responded with the efficiency that came from years of relentless training. Unlike the advanced species they were about to engage, humans had spent their entire history preparing for war, though they hadn't known it at the time. "Alien vessels identified, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the ship's tactical officer. 37 capital-class ships surrounding the fourth planet. Dozens of support vessels in high orbit. Energy signatures matched the intelligence we received from our long-range probes. We nodded. "And the defenders?" "Nearly wiped out, ma'am. One command vessel remains, heavily damaged. The planet's orbital defenses show multiple impact zones." "Then we're not too late." Wei's eyes narrowed. "Activate the quantum displacement drive. Combat pattern Delta." The Defiant shuddered as its revolutionary propulsion system engaged. Based on principles that violated what most of Earth's physicists had once considered immutable laws of nature, the quantum displacement drive created localized folds in spacetime, allowing the vessel to effectively exist in multiple places simultaneously, if only for fractions of a second. To the Vorax fleet, it would appear as if the human vessel was teleporting erratically around the battlefield. "Target their command ship," Wei ordered. "Kinetic lances, full charge." The Defiant's main weapons weren't the energy-based systems favored by most spacefaring races. Humanity had taken a different approach. The kinetic lances were, in essence, advanced railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to significant percentages of light speed. No shields yet developed could withstand such impacts, the energy equivalent of small nuclear detonations delivered with precision measured in meters. "Firing solution locked," Jackson confirmed. "Fire." The Defiant shuddered slightly as its primary weapons discharged. On the tactical display, Wei watched as 3 hypervelocity projectiles crossed the void in less than a second, impacting the Vorax command vessel at precisely calculated points. The massive alien ship didn't explode so much as disintegrate, its molecular structure unable to cope with the transfer of kinetic energy. "They'll adapt quickly," Wei noted. "Activate point defense grid and launch disruptor drones. Let's show them what else we brought to the party." On the bridge of her crippled vessel, Admiral Genra watched in stunned disbelief as the Vorax command ship, a dreadnought-class vessel that had destroyed entire Alliance battle groups, vanished in a flash of light and debris. "What manner of weapons are those?" she whispered to no one in particular. The human ship was moving again, but in a way that defied conventional navigation. It seemed to blink in and out of existence, appearing briefly at different points around the battlefield, each appearance marked by the destruction of another Vorax vessel. "Admiral," her science officer called out, "I've analyzed their weapon systems. They're using simple kinetic projectiles, but accelerated to velocities we've never achieved. And that propulsion system, it's creating localized distortions in spacetime itself." Genra couldn't process what she was witnessing. One ship, a ship from a species the Alliance had never encountered, was systematically dismantling a Vorax battle group that had been on the verge of victory. "Open a channel to the human vessel," she ordered. Captain Wei's face appeared on the view screen, her expression focused but calm despite being in the middle of combat. "Admiral," Wei acknowledged, "we've eliminated 13 of their capital ships, but they're adapting to our attack patterns. Their biotech is impressive. The remaining vessels are already generating kinetic dampening fields." "Captain Wei," Genra replied, trying to maintain her composure, "I don't understand. Who are you people? Where did you come from? How is your single vessel accomplishing what our entire fleet could not?" Wei's expression softened slightly. "We're humans, Admiral. From Earth. We've been monitoring the Vorax advance for the past 3 years, studying their tactics and biology. The Defiant was designed specifically to exploit their weaknesses." "But how?" "Admiral," Wei interrupted, with respect, "explanations can wait. My tactical officer reports the Vorax are regrouping. They're redirecting energy to their bioweapons and targeting your civilian evacuation vessels. Request permission to deploy our Titan system." Titan system. Genra's translator struggled with the term. "Tactical Integrated Temporal Acceleration Network," Wei explained. "It's experimental. Creates a localized temporal field that accelerates our combat systems while effectively slowing the enemy's response time." Genra didn't understand half of what Wei was describing, but the situation was clear. The evacuation vessels were defenseless. "Do what you must, Captain." Wei nodded and the transmission ended. Moments later, Genra watched as the human ship seemed to blur, moving at impossible speeds, even by the standards of its earlier maneuvers. The remaining Vorax vessels fired their weapons, but the energy beams moved so slowly compared to the Defiant that they might as well have been standing still. The counterattack was devastating and precise. Within minutes, the remainder of the Vorax fleet had been reduced to drifting debris. The few ships that attempted to retreat were pursued and destroyed with methodical efficiency. When it was over, the Defiant took up position near the Eternal Dawn, its imposing bulk now a reassuring presence rather than an unknown threat. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "Captain Wei is requesting permission to send medical teams and engineering support to assist with repairs and casualties." Genra stared at the viewscreen, at the battered but victorious human vessel that had accomplished the impossible. "Permission granted," she said quietly, "and arrange for Captain Wei to join me aboard the Eternal Dawn as soon as possible. I believe the Alliance Council will want to hear what the humans have to say." Humanity's answer. The Alliance Council chamber fell silent as the battle recording ended. 27 representatives from the most powerful species in the Alliance sat in stunned disbelief, having just witnessed the complete destruction of a Vorax attack fleet by a single human vessel. High Chancellor Xylos, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated extreme agitation, turned to face Admiral Genra. "Is this recording accurate?" "Unaltered." "It is, Chancellor," Genra confirmed. "I witnessed the engagement personally. The human vessel, the Defiant, eliminated 37 Vorax warships in less than 30 minutes. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. For 17 years, the Vorax had expanded relentlessly, consuming world after world, assimilating or destroying all who opposed them. Alliance forces had managed only to slow their advance, never to stop it completely. And now these humans propose an alliance. Asked Representative Jolek of the Parnassian Conclave, his exoskeleton clicking nervously. They offer their military expertise and technology in exchange for formal recognition and access to certain resources, Genra explained. Captain Wei has remained in the Taraxis system, providing protection while our evacuation and reconstruction efforts continue. One successful engagement, however impressive, does not prove these humans can stand against the full might of the Vorax, objected Ambassador Quill of the Centauri Republic. They have a single warship. The Vorax have thousands. The Council's strategic advisor, a cybernetically enhanced Tholian named Kaz, stepped forward. Our analysis suggests the human vessel employs technologies we have never encountered. Their approach to warfare is unconventional. Meaning, pressed the Chancellor. Meaning most spacefaring civilizations develop along similar technological paths. Energy weapons, deflector shields, faster than light travel based on established principles. The humans have taken different approaches entirely. Kaz displayed schematics of the Defiant. Their primary weapons are kinetic-based. Their defensive systems utilize principles we barely understand, and their propulsion method appears to violate several laws of physics as we know them. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Jolek. According to Captain Wei, Admiral Genra answered, humans devoted significant resources to warfare throughout their history. When they unified their world and looked to the stars, they didn't abandon this focus. They redirected it, preparing for threats they hadn't yet encountered. The council chamber erupted in overlapping conversations as representatives debated the implications. Chancellor Xylos raised a limb for silence. The question before us is not how the humans develop these capabilities, but whether an alliance with them serves the alliance's interests, he said. Admiral, you've spent the most time with these humans. What is your assessment? Genra considered carefully before answering. They are unsettling, Chancellor. They think differently than any species I've encountered, but their actions at Taraxis saved countless lives, and their continued presence has prevented further Vorax attacks. She paused. I believe an alliance would be beneficial, but with clear boundaries and oversight. The humans possess military prowess we desperately need, but their potential for disruption should not be underestimated. Chancellor Xylos nodded slowly. Very well. We will dispatch a diplomatic delegation to meet with these humans and explore the possibility of formal cooperation. In the meantime, an alarm cut through the chamber, and the central holographic display activated automatically. A damaged Alliance scout vessel appeared. Emergency transmission from the Epsilon sector, announced the communications officer. The Vorax have launched a major offensive against the Arcturus system. 3 planetary colonies are under attack. The Council watched in horror as the scouts' footage showed dozens of Vorax capital ships descending on the defenseless worlds. Our nearest response fleet is 2 days away at maximum speed, Kaz reported grimly. Admiral Genra stepped forward. Chancellor, the Defiant is approximately 6 hours from the Arcturus system. Chancellor Xylos's crystalline form pulsed with distress. Contact the humans. Request their assistance. Captain Ilara Wei reviewed the tactical data sent by the Alliance Council. The situation in the Arcturus system was grim. 3 habitable planets with a combined population of over 8 billion sentients, defended by a token security force wholly inadequate against the Vorax armada now bearing down on them. Thoughts? She asked, looking to her senior officers gathered in the Defiant Strategic Command Center. Commander Alejandro Vega, her XO, studied the holographic display. It's a trap, Captain. The Vorax know we intervened at Taraxis. They're counting on us to respond. Agreed, said Dr. Elisa Chen, the ship's chief science officer. The Vorax operate with a hive consciousness. Every ship we destroyed at Taraxis transmitted data back to their collective before being eliminated. They've had time to analyze our capabilities and develop countermeasures. We nodded, absorbing their assessments. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, your analysis of their force composition. Jackson, the tactical officer, manipulated the holographic display, highlighting various Vorax vessels. They've altered their fleet composition, Captain. Fewer capital ships, more smaller, faster vessels. They're adapting to our kinetic weapons, distributing their command structure across multiple ships rather than centralizing it. And they've positioned themselves to maximize civilian casualties if we engage, added Commander Vega. Any missed shots or debris from destroyed vessels will hit population centers. Wei studied the display, her mind working through possibilities. What about the Tai-Tien system? Asked Lieutenant Santos, the young engineering officer who had helped design the experimental temporal acceleration technology. Dr. Chen shook her head. The power requirements are too high for sustained use. We burned through 3 antimatter containment cells at Taraxis, and that was a shorter engagement with fewer targets. Wei rose from her seat and walked around the holographic display, examining the Vorax fleet from all angles. They're evolving their tactics, she said quietly. That's what makes them so dangerous. But so are we. She turned to face her officers. Commander Vega, set course for the Arcturus system, maximum speed. Dr. Chen, I want options for modifying our kinetic lances to penetrate whatever new shielding they've developed. Lieutenant Santos, Work with Chief Engineer Puddle to optimize the Titan system for shorter, more focused bursts. She looked at each of them in turn. The Vorax think they understand us now. They think they can predict what we'll do. Let's show them how wrong they are. 6 hours later, the Defiant dropped out of quantum displacement at the edge of the Arcturus system. The scene before them was worse than the intelligence had suggested. The Vorax fleet, nearly 60 vessels of various sizes, had already begun orbital bombardment of the 3 inhabited planets. Comms, open a channel to the Alliance Defense Forces. Way ordered. The face of an Arcturian commander appeared on screen, his scaled features tight with stress. This is Commander Threll of the Arcturian Defense Force. Identify yourself. Captain Ilara Way of the Earth Fleet Ship Defiant. We've been sent by the Alliance Council to assist. Relief washed over the commander's features. Captain Way, we've heard of your victory at Taraxis. But I must warn you, these Vorax are behaving differently. They're specifically targeting civilian centers rather than military installations, almost as if they're trying to draw us in. Way finished for him. We're aware, Commander. Continue your evacuation efforts. We'll handle the Vorax. As the transmission ended, Way turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, analysis. They've definitely modified their shields, Captain. Our standard kinetic projectiles may not be as effective. And they've positioned themselves in a defensive formation that will make it difficult to engage without risking civilian casualties. Why considered this? Dr. Chen, status of the modified kinetic lances. We've adjusted the composition of the projectiles to include a phase-shifting component that should penetrate their adaptive shielding, but it's untested. And the Titan system. Ready for focused application, Captain, responded Lieutenant Santos. We can create temporal acceleration fields around individual Vorax vessels rather than trying to encompass the entire fleet. It will allow for more precise targeting. We nodded, formulating her strategy. Here's what we're going to do. We'll deploy the Titan system in a series of focused bursts, targeting their command ships one at a time. Once a ship is temporally isolated, we'll use the modified kinetic lances to destroy it before moving to the next target. She turned to her navigation officer. Lieutenant Park, I want you to plot a course that keeps us moving between the Vorax fleet and the civilian population centers. We become the target, not the civilians. That will put us at increased risk, Captain, Commander Vega pointed out. I'm aware, Commander. But we didn't come here to stay safe. We came to save lives. We took her command chair, her expression resolute. All stations, battle stations, let's remind the Vorax why they should fear humanity. The engagement began with the Defiant moving at full speed into the heart of the Vorax formation, drawing their fire away from the planets below. The Vorax, eager to destroy the ship that had humiliated them at Taraxis, took the bait. Energy weapons lashed out from dozens of Vorax vessels, but the Defiant's advanced shield systems held. Barely. The human ship didn't immediately return fire, instead maneuvering through the Vorax formation with impossible precision, causing several enemy vessels to hit each other with friendly fire. Titan system online, reported Lieutenant Santos. Target acquired. Execute, ordered Y. A focused beam of blue-white energy lanced out from the Defiant, enveloping a Vorax command ship. To outside observers, the vessel seemed to slow to a near standstill, caught in a localized temporal field where time passed at a fraction of normal speed. Kinetic lances locked, reported Jackson. Fire. The modified projectiles struck the temporally slowed Vorax vessel, passing through its shields as if they weren't there. The ship exploded in slow motion, the debris suspended in the temporal field. Next target, Way ordered calmly. One by one, the Defiant isolated and destroyed the Vorax command ships, leaving the smaller vessels disorganized and vulnerable. But the strain on the human ship was becoming evident. Shield strength was dropping, and the power requirements of the Titan system were pushing the engines to their limits. Captain, reported the engineering officer, We can't maintain this output. Core temperature approaching critical levels. Wei acknowledged the warning but pressed on. The strategy was working. The Voraks were falling back, their coordinated assault breaking down as more command ships were destroyed. Final target acquired, Santos reported, her voice strained from continuous operation of the experimental system. Execute, Wei ordered. The TITN beam struck the last Voraks command ship, freezing it in time. The kinetic lances followed, destroying the vessel with surgical precision. The remaining Vorak ships, now leaderless, began to retreat in disarray. "Do we pursue, Captain?" asked Commander Vega. Wei shook her head. "No. Our primary mission was to protect the civilian population. That's accomplished." She turned to her communications officer. "Signal the Alliance Defense Forces. Tell them the immediate threat has been neutralized, but they should maintain vigilance. The Voraks will be back." As the adrenaline of combat faded, Wei allowed herself a moment to appreciate what they had accomplished. The Defiant, one ship with a crew of 327 humans, had faced down a force that had been terrorizing an entire galaxy for nearly 2 decades, and they had won. But it was only the beginning. The Voraks would adapt again. They would develop new tactics, new technologies. The war was far from over. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Chancellor Xylos of the Alliance Council." The crystalline form of the Chancellor appeared on the main view screen. "Captain Wei," he began, his translator conveying genuine emotion. "On behalf of the Alliance Council and the 8 billion lives you saved today, I extend our deepest gratitude. Your actions have demonstrated not only your species' military prowess, but also your commitment to protecting innocent life." Wei acknowledged with a nod. "We did what needed to be done, Chancellor." "Indeed. And that is why the Council has unanimously voted to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Alliance, with all rights and privileges therein. We believe that together, we can finally turn the tide against the Voraks threat." Wei glanced around at her crew, humans who had traveled across unimaginable distances to fight alongside aliens they had never met before, risking everything to protect life in all its forms. "Chancellor, humanity would be honored to join the Alliance. But understand this, we don't just fight to survive. We fight to win. And with your help, we will drive the Voraks back to whatever dark corner of the galaxy they came from." The Chancellor's crystalline form pulsed with approval. "I believe you will, Captain Wei. I believe you will." As the transmission ended, Wei looked out at the stars through the view screen. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or subjects, but as protectors. The war that had nearly ended in extinction would instead become the beginning of a new era of cooperation between species across the stars. And the Voraks, for the first time in their long campaign of conquest, would learn what it meant to face an enemy that refused to be beaten, refused to surrender, and refused to accept anything less than total victory. They would learn what it meant to face humanity.